Welcome to Peace Day Panel Discussion 2023. And I'm Utako Toyama, co-founder of Songs for World Peace. And we are so glad that you're here.
I'm the other co-founder, Yoshie Nakayama. Welcome to this event. Songs for World Peace is a global initiative by musicians from all over the world to create and share songs about world peace. Our mission is to bring unity through the power of music and to promote world peace from each artist's perspective.
This year, we are releasing songs from Ghana, Haiti, Nepal, Mozambique, and the United States. We have released a total of over 100 songs by 100 plus artists from 90 plus countries since our launch on the International Day of Peace 2020. And our goal is to release songs about world peace from every country. So please sign up for our emailing list, which should be in the chat box, for more information and on what's to come.
Peace Day panel discussion is our annual event on September 21st in observance of the International Day of Peace. We invite leaders from around the world to use music for peace building. This is a great opportunity for us to learn their views and how we can take action. Through discussion and by exchanging ideas, we hope to explore what each of us can do to contribute to our society by being more inclusive and inspiring further actions for world peace.
This is our 4th year hosting this annual event, and we are so grateful for the opportunity to host important conversations with our wonderful guest.
This year, with funding from the Hiroshima Festival, we collaborated on our annual finale song project with the Hiroshima Festival, the City of Hiroshima, Mayors for Peace, and Berklee Global Jazz Institute, directed by our guest today, Danilo Perez.
It's such an honor to cover Hiroshima Peace Song with our twist. And we had amazing recording sessions at Berklee College of Music in Boston with singers, musicians, engineers, and a videographer from Berklee community. Thank you, Danilo, for organizing this. And also thank you, Hiroshima Festival, for helping us to make this happen. So before we premiere our Hiroshima Peace Song, we are going to open this event with a video message from the Mayor of Hiroshima City.
I would like to offer my heartfelt congratulations on the Peace Day panel discussion. To all the members of Songs for World Peace who organized this event, I would like to express my gratitude for your cooperation in producing the video for the Hiroshima Peace Song, a song which is so important to the city of Hiroshima and continue to be sung each year at the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Ceremony. I would also like to thank you for releasing this video today on World Peace Day. It is thanks to you that we had so many people featured in this video, including those from your organization, Berklee College of Music, Mayors for Peace Executive Cities, Hiroshima Regional Urban Area Municipalities, and cultural organizations. It is also thanks to you that we were able to send this message of peace to the world from Hiroshima, and I could not be more glad. Currently, cities around the world are working to solve various global issues that threaten the safety and security of citizen life, including climate change. Here at the city of Hiroshima, we believe that realization of a truly peaceful world free from nuclear weapons, which is the ardent wish of the Hibakusha, is a part of these global issues and are working toward it as our highest priority. A truly peaceful world is not just a world without nuclear weapons. It is also one in which society and the environment allow for everyone to pursue better living and happiness. in their day-to-day lives. Thus, we were focused on promoting the culture of peace, a culture that serves as a foundation for our vision. Music has the ability to share emotion that transcend differences in languages, nationalities, creeds, and genders. And Songs for World Peace works to promote world peace through that power. This is the very definition of the culture of peace that the city of Hiroshima is working to promote. In closing, it is my heartfelt hope that today's event will serve as an opportunity for people around the world to realize how precious peace truly is and take action toward achieving it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor MATSUI, for your peaceful video message. Please enjoy the Hiroshima Peace Song, Songs for World Peace Finale Song 2023.
Where white peaceful clouds unbend endlessly in the sky, and sounds of bell reach east to west unbound, as it resonates, echoing high and strong, the sound of the bell, our wish for world peace. Let us now rise up together, solidly, to hail the glory, the future we foresee. Where deep blue waves sway gently as they are whispering to the ends of the sea, to the south, to the north, we reach worldwide, singing our earnest praise. The bell rings and rings, calling out for world peace. Let us now overcome our deep sorrows and hardships. The path we have begun to see life like the sun. We still have a dream. Let freedom ring. Let peace sing. We still have a dream. Let freedom ring. Let peace sing. Let us sing. We still have a dream. Let freedom ring. Let peace sing. Let peace sing. We still have a dream. Let freedom ring. Let peace sing. Let freedom ring. We still have a dream. Let freedom ring. Let peace sing. Let peace sing.
So this finale song was not possible without the Hiroshima Festival and the collaborations between the organizations and generous contributions and support from many individuals. So thank you again so much for being part of this project.
It's time for the Peace Day panel discussion. Our topic this year is Peace Building Through the Power of Music. We would like to introduce the wonderful panel guests.
She's Lola Hassler. She's the founder and the director of Musicians Without Borders. It's an umbrella organization working with local musicians to bring social change and peaceful, livable conditions to their own communities. Lola started the organization 20 years ago, and in that time she has established impressive programs and training workshops in countries around the world. Lola has been recognized for her vision and leadership as the recipient of the Reyes Van Cultural Prize and Kohon Health Prize, Joke Blom Award, and Arabella Carter Award.
Danilo Perez. Danilo is a Grammy-winning Panamanian pianist, composer, and educator. He fuses diverse musical influences in his global jazz. Studying music at 3, he studied jazz at Berklee College of Music. In 1989, Danilo became the youngest member to join the Dizzy Gillespie's United Nations Orchestra. In 2000, Danilo joined the Wayne Shorter Quartet together with John Patitucci and Brian Blade to create one of the most influential bands in the last 20 years. They recorded 3 Grammy-winning albums. He unites communities through music with his trio, the Global Messengers, and holds esteemed roles like UNESCO Artist for Peace and Cultural Ambassador to Panama, as well as the founder and artistic director of Berklee Global Jazz Institute.
So now, without further ado, here's our first questions for both of our panel guests. Now, can you briefly introduce yourself and your background in music and peace building, and what inspired you guys to use music as a tool for peace building?
Thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this, and I think it's a lovely and wonderful initiative, Songs for World Peace, and very, very honored to be one of your guests today. I grew up outside of New York in a cooperative living community, the child of 2 professional peacemakers. My parents both worked for an interreligious pacifist nonviolent organization who worked together, for example, with the movement of led by Dr. Martin Luther King in the southern states of the United States, and then later very strongly in support of peace processes and opposed to the Vietnam War. So I grew up in that kind of artistic or political sort of framework, activist framework. But also in our community, people were always making music. There were a number of people who were sort of activists involved in social causes. There were professionals of all kinds. There were artists and musicians. And it was all kinds of music. So there were classical musicians and folk musicians and people who just love singing together, which is something that I also loved. I had piano lessons and clarinet lessons and played in the band, the orchestra, and sang in the choir and was the pianist for the choir and so forth and so on, and led the singing in the school bus every day. But also growing up in this culturally diverse, activist, artistic living community that brought music together with an image of people living together in peace. I guess you could say that. And so those 2 sort of pillars, the pillar of music, the pillar of peace building and nonviolent social change, have always been the driving factors in my life. And it was more than 20 years ago. In fact, it was 24 years ago that those things came together when not I alone, but I and a group of friends, musicians within my community had the idea of applying the connecting power of music to the questions of war and peace. And that's how Musicians Without Borders began. So that's kind of my life story in a nutshell.
Thank you so much. How about you, Danilo?
I am from Panama City, Panama. My father was a singer educator, and my mother was an educator who fought for social justice in Panama. I came to music at a very early age when my father, his name is Danilo Perez, he gave me a pair of bongos and then went to take me to the conservatory to study classical music at around, I was 10 years old. At 12 years old, I started playing my first gig, playing bongos and synthesizer with my father in a French band called the Educator Orchestra. My dad also started experimenting with me when I was really a young kid with something he called interconnected learning, which is teaching music, using music to teach mathematics, geography, and other subjects. Actually, I have the book here that he wrote. This is thesis that he wrote, and he used in a concentrated areas of poverty in Panama. In the thesis is called The Influence of Music in Primary Education, and his study was how music should be included as a pedagogical tool to teach all subjects in school. I also had the honor of working with Dizzy Gillespie, who happens to be one of the pioneers of jazz music, and he actually had a vision to have a United Nations orchestra, people from all over the world coming together to talk about diplomacy, to play diplomacy through music. I had a personal, a strong experience when the USA invaded Panama in December 20, 1989. I was scheduled to perform my first concert on December 22nd of that year. We went ahead and performed in the middle of the invasion. The club was packed with people against and for the American invasion. It was a powerful experience because the music provided the healing experience of peace in the middle of a war zone. I lived the power of music as therapy, music as a healer. It changed my life forever.
Thank you. That's so powerful. So my question is about the power of music. So Laura, in your opinion, what makes music such a powerful tool for promoting peace and reconciliation?
Well, I think of a couple of things. I think of the fact that everyone, everywhere in the world, from no matter what culture, has music in them, has response to music. Every single culture in the world has music. I think music is a property within human beings, or the potential for music just as language, perhaps more powerful. If you think about the first sounds that a baby hears, it's often the mother or the father singing to them, or talking in a kind of a singing voice. And that, I think what happens in that connection is the building of empathy. It's the creation of a bond between people. And I think that everybody who's ever played or sung music with others will probably recognize this feeling that when you have made music with people, there's a kind of connection that comes into existence that is different, fundamentally different from other types of connections with people. And also because because music does not only affect the rational part of the brain, but also the emotional part of the brain. So there's a special kind of connection, which I think strengthens empathy. But then I also want to say that for that same reason, music can also be used to connect one group against another, because it is possible to use music to bring people together with a different kind of idea than creating peace or connection, but to build a community, a group of people who can be manipulated into hatred of another group. And for that reason, within Musicians Without Borders, we refer to, besides the connecting power of music as a guiding principle, we also refer to the International Declaration of Human Rights as kind of the gold standard, you could say, for as far as we've gotten as a human community in defining what the kind of the rules for interacting with each other. And the third thing that we call to as a principle are the principles of active nonviolence. And then we look towards the teachings of, for example, the leadership of Dr. Martin Luther King in the civil rights movement, some of the principles that were embedded into the Indian fight for independence in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. The idea of truth speaking, of satyagraha, which means truth, and ahimsa, which means respect for all life. So with those kinds of principles in mind, behind the connecting power of music, those three things we refer to as our kind of founding principles. But okay, that's a bit of a long answer. I apologize for that, but I think for me, the creation of empathy, or the strengthening of empathy, is the core of why music.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Laura. And Danilo, what do you think?
Nowadays, there's scientific proof that music helps with brain development, concentration, relaxation, memory, creativity, and many aspects of the human experience, the human growth. Also, my experience in jazz has been really strong, because when you practice an improvisation, you also are practiced to grow as an individual in a collective environment. It provides a vehicle where people can express their emotion and build empathy, as Laura mentioned. The power of music, if it's used correctly, can bring incredible benefit to health, to social cohesion, to the development of values, to bring countries together. So to me, it's just an important tool, and I have experienced the power of music in all my work since I was a kid. So I believe in music as a tool to reimagine a new world.
May I add one more thought to that?
Sure.
Yes.
Inspired by what you said, Danilo. In many of our projects, because we work mostly in post-conflict regions, places which have suffered from war and armed conflict, and also with people who have been forced to flee from their countries because of armed conflict, and also increasingly because of climate disaster. But one of the things that happens when there has been this kind of either natural or human disaster is that people sort of become defined by that one piece of their identity, which is related to that disaster. So if you're living in an ethnically divided city, where we work, for example, in northern Kosovo, where the city is divided by a river, and the Serbs live on the north part of the river and the Albanians on the south, and that kind of frozen conflict has been there since the 90s. So what becomes defining in people's identity is only that ethnicity. It's only
Right.
that. That's all that defines you. So, but when you get into a band and you're playing with kids from the other side of the city, you're no longer a Serb or an Albanian, you're a drummer or a singer or a bass player or a guitarist or a sound engineer or whatever, but there's a kind of an acknowledgement of complex identity, which is something that we tend to lose in the context of war and ethnic division. We get pegged to that one piece of identity, which makes us all poorer and less able to connect with each other. So to me, that's also what music does. It provides that space for rediscovering your own complex identity.
I would like to go on that thread. If you during the COVID years, for example, one of the things that kept us resilient and kept us healthy from going crazy was music.
Absolutely.
It was a very powerful statement, right? So I completely agree. If I think that's coming. I think in the next questions, hopefully we'll talk about the involvement that it takes to really put music in the right platform to be used in that direction.
Yes, thank you so much for these answers. It's been so insightful. So the next question is about roles. because this year we have Songs for World Peace have collaborated on our finale song with Hiroshima City and then Mayors for Peace, which is an international organization made with mayors from 8,000 cities in the world, as well as, Berklee and many individuals. So my question is, how can governments and organizations and individuals support the peace building potential of music on a global scale? Can we start from Danilo?
I'd like to start by saying that the idea of creating projects and programs that are sustainable and encourage the use of music in conflict resolution. Governments can also use music as a tool for diplomacy and cultural exchange to really put more energy into that. This would aid in the development of understanding and respect between cultures and countries. This has been used before, it works. I don't understand why they don't make it a priority and they make it forever. I think the primary things you learn from music is about listening, sharing music that promotes peace and understanding. I mean, really understanding what is it that we're trying to do. Jazz provides that incredible vehicle. We have personally witnessed the power of music through the Panama Jazz Festival, which was an event that we created in Panama to bring social cohesion and expose people to the healing power of creative music. So I think more commitment, more funding, more long-term plans, more political agendas that include longevity in this, and let the artists and people who are the expert use the funding in the right way. That would be helpful.
Thank you, Danilo. How about you, Lola?
Well, yes, a lot of interesting things said there. I would say visibility is something that organizations and some governments can help with. I'm a little bit leery of the government's question, also because I think it's important to some of our organizations do have some government funding. We have some EU funding, and we've had from some embassies and so forth, and that's great. I think we have to be careful in the kind of cultural diplomacy world when governments have policies that are really connected to and promoting war and the war industry, the war machine, you could say, that we don't allow ourselves to be part of I would call it maybe a song washing process. They talk about greenwashing, but that we stay true to what we're really talking about. Because if you're really talking about world peace, you're talking about social justice, you're talking about equality, you're talking about diversity, you're talking about climate and protecting the planet. And I think we have to be careful about that we don't allow ourselves to be used to kind of it's kind of like the fossil fuel companies sponsoring the climate conferences, that we have to be careful not to be used by governments. And so we're always very careful. If a government wants to give us some money for one of our projects, it has to be non-conditional. It has to be without that they're not allowed to get up on the stage and make a speech at a concert or something like that. So we're careful about those things. At the same time, I recognize that there are within many governments, there are many different people in different directions to go. And so you can, and that's my second point besides visibility, could be partnerships, and then partnerships, I would say also across organizations where possible. Musicians Without Borders always works in partnership in every country where we work with. We don't go in with a kind of copy-paste idea. We're sometimes invited, but it might be a health organization or an educational organization or a peace-building organization that we're working with, and to create partnerships that are mutually beneficial and where music becomes a kind of driver for some of the processes of change that you're looking for. And then funding, yes, absolutely, funding, and that's always with us a big issue, is finding funding to do our work, and that's partly because most of our projects are long-term, while most funding is short-term, because funders want to see a project begin and end, preferably within a year, And if I'm thinking about, you know, some of our projects, they've been going on for 15 years already, and they've now become partners. And to me, that's when social change actually can happen, when you're really engaged with others for the long term and can work together and build that trust. So, okay, that's what I would say on this question.
Laura, wait a minute, that instigated this. That's fantastic. I would add to this part a global effort to promote music as a part of a public health law. That would help with funding, because music is not only being cohesion, but also is for your health. It's crucial. So, you know, we experimented in Panama. We worked really hard. My wife, Patricia Zarate, who's a social activist too, and we educated, also allowing us to educate the politicians. We educated the politicians and were able to pass a law that protects the making of the Panama Jazz Festival. I just wanted to add that because it was fantastic.
Fabulous. Yeah, and I've gotten involved with Extinction Rebellion here in the Netherlands. They've been mounting successive demonstrations, blocking a highway, committing civil disobedience, but completely non-violently, and demanding that the Dutch government stop subsidizing fossil fuels. That's the demand, because the Dutch government subsidizes fossil fuels at the rate of something like 46 billion euros per year. And what's happened, what I'm seeing happening, which I think is fantastic, and here's another good example about organizations working together, is the number of musicians and music groups. And, you know, there were 180 classically trained musicians on an orchestra on the road with the Extinction Rebellion rebels, playing, and a choir playing and singing the Dies Irae from Mozart, the Day of Reckoning. And then even when the police threatened them, you may not take your instruments onto the road, or we will take your instruments away from you. We will impound your instruments. What do? The orchestra people sang their parts and mimed their playing with the choir singing this. It was amazing, you know. And I was one of the speakers, and before me was a punk band. And before that was this woman singer singing Patti Smith's People Have the Power. And there behind me was a big sign that said, "No music on a dead planet." So I'm very excited about here, and this is getting into probably another question later on, but the understanding of the intersectionality of global issues and the ways in which musicians and music organizations can collaborate with other types of movements that are working for positive social change, and not only to raise the voice, but also to change the narrative of those actions. Because I see the musical component of these demonstrations, what it does is all kinds of people seeing this go, wow, also the classical musicians of the Netherlands are joining this. This is something to be taken seriously. And the young kids go, yeah, you know, the punk rock, I'm here too. So this is, you know, giving this whole new complexion to climate activism, which I think is fantastic. So there's the organizational or maybe inter-movement collaboration that I see as a real added value in all directions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, now let's talk about music education and impact measurement. Danilo, could you share your work in music education and community programs that contribute to these peace building efforts?
Well, I've been involved since I was young. As I said, my father used interconnected learning to really help bring cohesion, social cohesions in communities that were basically forgotten. I also, in 2009, I had the privilege and honor to be the founder of the Berklee Global Jazz Institute, which I am now the artistic director, and I have Mr. Marco Pignataro, who's the managing director. And the institute is a creative institute that push the boundaries of music education, I would say, and has developed curriculum and programs center on the use of music as a tool for peace building. These programs bring students from all around the world together to learn about the power of music, where we use music as a building bridge of understanding, for understanding and respect, I would say. You see, my root as Panamanian, I always have that symbol in my mind of the Panama Canal, of the Bridge of the America, as a place where the whole world walked through every day. And I always wonder what music would sound like. What would my music sound like if I wanted to represent that cohesive unity, a virtual bridge, music as virtual bridge. So our students, they're taught about the history of jazz from the perspective of Pan-African philosophy. They understand the importance of jazz as a social movement, the involvement of jazz in social justice. I also been working with UNESCO since 2012 to promote the use of music for peace building in addition to these educational activities. In Panama, I developed with my family, including my wife, we developed the Panama Jazz Festival, which is a festival that I would say is a peace building festival. It's an important event that happens every year and is put together by our foundation, the Danilo Perez Foundation, which we have dedicated strongly to the idea of human development through music. And it's really satisfying to see that the final event that we do in Panama, actually you all are invited, January 15th to the 20th. So put that in your calendar, next year, 2024. One of the things that's so powerful and so meaningful, the festival takes place in a military base. It used to be a part of a zone of the USA that I was never able to enter. But the festival now, that whole military base has turned into a city of knowledge. So it's really symbolic when we have the final concert, when it's the free outdoor concert, to see that jazz become a powerful tool for unity and humanization. And also it helps us to dream. It helps us to think towards the future. So those are the projects I work and I've dedicated my life to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danilo. What about you, Laura?
Well, we don't usually define our work as music education, although there are always some aspects of that involved, sometimes more, sometimes less. If you think about the rock music school that we've set up and now are partnered with in Kosovo that I mentioned before, that's probably the closest to what you could call real music education in the kind of traditional sense, because these kids just want to learn how to be rock musicians, and then that desire is brought together in this divided town by a mutual desire, and then they get to know each other through the school, but they're still really working hard to learn how to play their instruments or to sing as well as possible. In other situations, I'm not sure you'd call it music education, but maybe we could expand the definition in this case. So, for example, we were invited by an AIDS clinic in Rwanda to work with them, and we set up a program where we trained young people in their program as music workshop leaders. So gave them the tools to be able to make music with young children who were also in their program. So these were all people who were living with HIV. And then we made sure that these young people, most of whom had zero exposure to any kind of music education at all, but we made sure that we got them into the local music school so that they could take lessons on the guitar or drums or keyboard or singing. And then gave them the tools or shared tools with them and trained up a couple of fantastic Rwandan musicians in this approach, who now run the program. But the point of the program is to bring joy and a sense of being honored and a sense of being seen and inclusion and building community by making music with children led by these young people between the ages usually of 15 and 25. So it's a very different approach, and it's much more about, well, how do we work sometimes with a very large group of kids? How do you get people singing and dancing and playing maybe with rhythm sticks if there are no actual instruments around, and just enjoying each other and feeling seen and honored. So it's a very different kind of approach, but it's being run by highly skilled Rwandan musicians who now are also doing the same kind of work in Congo, in DRC, over the border. But they're training Congolese musicians so that those Congolese musicians have kind of the tools, the pedagogical and didactical tools to go into refugee camps and make music with children. There's hundreds of thousands of children now in refugee camps in DRC. So that's a very different thing than kind of the I guess, Western idea of music education, but it is teaching and sharing music in an inclusive way that that encourages connection and empowers people and helps to, you know, create cultural leaders rather than, you know, marginalized people who are victims in their own society. So music education, yeah, broadly, yes. But I think that what we're doing is we're taking that thing that both Danilo and I talked about earlier on, that creation of empathy, and trying to translate it into as many different contexts as possible through the power of music, but it looks different in each place.
Yeah, may I add one thing to that, Lara? When you talk about leadership, I think that's a good focus, because I've already seen that those results. For example, at the Berklee Global Jazz Institute, I put a project from leaders, like-minded students from Iran, from Iraq, from Jordan, from Palestine, from Cyprus, from Spain, from United States, and Greece. We have seen how music become a transformative tool to bring cohesion immediately, you know, and I call that group the global messengers. And the beauty about that project was they all becoming leader in their own, that believe in music to change the world. You know, can music change the world? You know, and this year we were at the Grammys with all my students, and they're all great artists, like-minded artists. And I think I'm hoping that this type of projects will encourage leadership, as you said, to continue the leadership we need, young artists committed to using music for the betterment of humanity. I just wanted to add that leadership is an important take from the young artists.
And seeing the power of this thing that we all love, that's part of us all, that, you know, musicians are all, we all know how it makes our heart beat and how it makes us feel more human and more connected. And I think sort of, you know, those aspects of music's potential to connect, but also to reflect, to sort of hold a mirror up to society, to what's going on, and to tell kinds of truth from the artistic viewpoint. These are things that have been lost in the kind of commercialization of music, and I think we're kind of reclaiming those, right? We're reclaiming the properties of music, yeah, and not only just making music to make people happy and performing for people. I mean, it's all fine, but the power of music goes much deeper. And I think that's what we're looking to, for how can music be this really moving force within society, and how can musicians be real change makers? Yeah,
we call that at the Berklee Global Jazz Institute performance therapy. Performance therapy, how we get back to that. Yeah.
Is it so, Danilo, that just in between a question that the Fontes Rock Academy in the Netherlands, is that not a partner with Berklee? Do they not work together?
I'm not sure. I don't have the answer to that. I'm not sure.
Okay. I think that's one of the institutes that does exchanges with Berklee. I remember, or did anyway, and they're our partner in that rock school project and have been from the very beginning. So they help with, like, you could say, the rock music, building a curriculum and an approach that fits the situation, and they work through, they call it demand-driven learning, which reminds me of your father's philosophy. But they're like, you don't go into a guitar lesson and say you first have to learn how to play the D, G, and A chords. No, you go in and you say, which song do you want to play? Oh, you play that song. Then you need these chords, So let's learn those chords so that you can play the song you want to play. I mean, I'm expressing it very, very simply, but that's kind of the principle behind it. So with the desire of the student and in that way also empowering the student, and then doing a lot with band coaching so that people learn how to listen to each other and how to create something together, and something that's a kind of a shared creation, and how to compromise, and now all of those kinds of approaches. So we've been very, very grateful for this partnership with this Rock Music Academy, which I believe has a connection with Berklee, but I didn't.
I wouldn't be surprised, Laura, because Berklee is such the vanguard of many new ideas, and I would not be surprised that they have a collaboration. They've been doing it for years.
Thank you, guys, and it's amazing that I think it's amazing that you guys have so much in common, and this has been amazing. And this is so great that we want to continue, but because of the time, we need to cut the questions and then jump into one of our last questions. And it's about the future of music in peace building. It's the vital one, so we really wanted to ask. So the question is, in today's age, how do you think technology and an online platform have changed the landscape for musicians and peace builders seeking to reach global audience? And another component is that what's the future of music in peace building, and what exciting developments or project do you foresee in this field? Can we start from Laura?
Well, that's a complicated, many-layered series of questions.
We put it into one.
In terms of technology, clearly enormous changes, enormous potential, also limitations, and I would just name the fact that access to technology and to devices is very different around the world, and not everybody has the access to all of the ways in which technology can be used. I mean, and in our project, for example, in El Salvador, when we had a project which it was called Soy Musica, which means I am music. Being the only team member who doesn't speak Spanish, I'm the one who thought of that name, but never mind. But during the pandemic, when there was a whole series of basically tools to help children to get through the pandemic when they were in lockdown, when they had to stay home. But for example, most people around the country did not have internet access. So what they did was they turned these into, because there was a collaboration with the ministry, they turned these into television programs because everybody had a TV. And so there were daily like music and dance and movement exercises, but just that point that not everybody has access. And so to think about that when we're thinking about connecting people around the globe through music and technology, part of that has to be also improving the equality of access to technology. In terms of the future, I don't think there's a future for humanity if there's no future, if there's no strong role of music in it. That's how important I think this is. I think we have to step into this. I think we can be leaders in movements for social change. Obviously not the only ones, clearly, but I think we need to step into that role. And I think it's critically important that we find whichever ways we can to link people up, to go beyond nationality to no borders, by the way, and really to connect people and to work together across whatever lines there are between us, because we desperately need alternatives to the situation that the world is in now, and we need creativity. I think we need to think like artists also when we're thinking strategically, not only when we're making music, but we need to think about how we do this in an artistic way. We need artistic ways of thinking about things and creative ways, and to form alliances across with each other across disciplines, and I think musicians can be leaders in that. I think I've said enough on that one.
Thank you so much, Laura. How about you, Danilo?
That's fantastic, Laura. I want to go in that. There's no future if we as humans do not use tools like music to humanize us. Because what you said is important. To use the power of music for creativity is vital, is necessary. Imagination for us as a musician to reimagine. See, we are in charge. We are the guardians of the creative process. So we have to take that responsibility very serious. Use all of our imagination to influence the ecosystem of humanity at a deep level. We can do it through music. We can access those dreams. And I always tell my student, if your dreams are not scaring you, you might have to go deeper on it because they're supposed to scare you. So, but I get excited by examples of programs like Playing for Change. I get excited I get hopeful by the Recycle Orchestra in Paraguay, which they use trash to create instrument and perform. This. I get really inspired by the work we do in Panama, because nowadays it's mostly run by women, and also is run by people from different ethnic backgrounds, indigenous, from social places that didn't have access to opportunities. They're running the programs in Panama. Leida Duarte, she's the executive director. Patricia Sarte is the executive director for Panama Jazz Festival. Seeing all my students, how they're using the technology, actually, I'm learning from them. I think YouTube and SoundCloud have become an online platform that are very, very important. I believe that the future of music is in peace building will be more collaborative, and we have the tools to do it. I've seen an increase of projects that employ music for social change. As an example of this gathering today, using the power of music to bring unity and to bring an incredible topic to the table in a non-threatening manner. And it will help us to have this kind of conversation that will enhance the human experience.
Thank you, Danilo.
Yes, didn't have a question. I just wanted to thank you. Your comments and answers were so inspiring and insightful, and really give me sort of a motivation to think bigger and get more involved in things, including sharing music, but just have a larger mindset than I often have in my day-to-day. It's really, really, I loved hearing all your comments. Thank you.
We are ending panel session here, and we are going to be introducing our featured artist and then moving on to playing this year's songs by our new artist as we interview them. And before we move on, please click this link in the Facebook comment section or Zoom chat box for a quick survey. We would love to hear from you and about your experience today, and especially from the artist. And let us know any topics you'd like to learn or for us to discuss in our future programs. As we continue this initiative, we would like to be as helpful as possible for all of you. And we'd also like to humbly remind you that we are going to continue to offer these events for free through the combined effort of Songs for World Peace Management team, as well as all the panel guests and as the artist as well. Your support in any form will be appreciated, as we can't do this alone.
May I also invite anybody who's interested to look up our website and follow us on Facebook. We're musicianswithoutborders.org, and we're on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and those kinds of things. So, welcome. You can also sign up for a newsletter and just follow our work. And it would be lovely to have you, because we love expanding and reaching out, especially to musicians. And so please, sign up and join. Oh yeah, great. I see the link in the chat. And big thanks to Songs for World Peace, and lovely to meet you, Danilo. And
really great to meet you. Really great to meet you. Also, yes, I hope we can meet in person and continue this. Is wonderful. I also encourage all of you to follow up to what we do at the Berklee Global Jazz Institute.com, at the Fundación Danilo Perez.org, and also the Panama Jazz Festival.com. I will encourage, I hope that you can come in January 15th to the 20th to Panama.
Okay, so
enjoy the rest.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So yeah, another huge thank you to these inspiring panel guests for joining us today. I know it's a busy day for you guys. So if you haven't, don't forget to follow our social media for everyone who's watching and see what we are up to. And now we'd like to interview our featured artists, George and Vera. So our associate manager, Stella, will be moderating from here on.
Hi. Again, thank you so much for inspiring discussion. Yeah, everything was amazing. My name is Stella. I'm part of the SWP team. I'm excited to be interviewing the featured artist today. So first, let me start with the introduction to the artist. Vera is an innovative artist recognized for her contributions to the arts. She's a funky jazz vocalist, voice actor, and model and guitarist. Vera has received awards and performed internationally and is showcasing her talent at various festivals and prestigious events. Additionally, she is a dedicated program coordinator, leading inclusivity and accessibility in the arts. So Vera's own creative hub, Incubator ZW, supports emerging artists and foster positive change through initiatives like her Hour podcast. She's also involved with the project I Timba. Is it correct, Vera?
Yes.
Thank you. Empowering the LGBTQ community through the creative workshops. Our amazing other featured artist is George Lernis. George is a renowned percussionist and educator based in the US, known for his mastery of both Middle Eastern traditional percussion and jazz drumming. A Berklee College of Music graduate, he has collaborated with prominent musicians like John Petrucci, Danilo, Perez, and Antonio Sanchez. His latest album, Between Tours, featuring John Petrucci, seeks to empower immigrants by blending their cultural traditions into American society, addressing stereotypes through music. George holds 2 master's degrees in jazz performance and is celebrated for his bi-musical expertise. Thank you both for joining us. Songs for World Peace has recently started the artist interview blog on our website. So I have interviewed both of them and learned how they are exceptional artists who have amazing experiences. So I'm so happy to have you two today. So let me jump right into the questions. Would you introduce yourself and by sharing your personal journey for peace and experiences with Songs for World Peace? In specific, what inspired you to participate in the initiative and how has it impacted your artist career? Can we start with Vera?
Okay, thank you so much for having me on the panel, and thank you so much for continuing such amazing work. So yes, my name is Vera. I'm from Zimbabwe, and I think participating in the Songs for World Peace initiative last year really helped me to realize the importance of like the role that music plays when it comes to speaking around issues to do with injustice and advocating for peace and, in different contexts, because I think all over the world, we have our own different kind of understandings of what peace means to us in our own contexts. I think another really beautiful thing about the initiative is just to see how many artists from all over the world were also actively participating in the initiative. And it also kind of gave a bit of hope that, if everyone has the same belief that, there is like the silver lining that, one day we will eventually live in a world where there is no violence, where everyone is accepted for their differences and loved and respected. My journey in music has been quite interesting. When I first started writing music, I was a very angry artist, and I always describe myself as an angry artist every time I perform on stage, because a lot of the times my music would be complaining about something. And in my country, when we had our previous president, a lot of the songs that I used to write, I couldn't perform them live because my band was really afraid that, they might be construed in a different way. And hence we had to kind of alter the lyrics or alter how we kind of like did the songs. And now, like with things changing in my home country, they're not perfect, but they are slightly better. You're finding more young people that are really more empowered to use their voice to speak about issues that concern them, empowered to speak, to inspire other young people, to be the change that they want to see. I think I'll end it there.
Thank you, Vera. How about you, George?
Sure, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. First of all, it's an honor to be here. I would like to thank the Songs for World Peace for inviting me. Vera, it's a pleasure to meet you. So I believe I joined Songs for World Peace during COVID lockdown, or maybe towards the end of it. And like my mentor Danilo mentioned earlier, what kept me from going crazy during the lockdown was music. And I just want to mention that during the COVID lockdown, as an artist and by musical musician, someone that comes from a musical tradition that's different than the jazz tradition here, American music, African music tradition. I come from Middle Eastern musical tradition, so I always had this disconnect between who I really am, as a musician and the person, and who I pretend to be in the United States. And it was only until later in life I started realizing how much, value there is in my musical tradition from the Middle East, and making these interconnections. And I'm saying this because during COVID, this is when I started thinking about these things and what I want to do in the future as an artist, as a father of an 11-year-old kid. What do I want my legacy to be? I wanted to do things in life that have meaning. And during that time as well, I think when I got to know Utako is when I released a song called Prayer. And this song was about promoting awareness on ongoing social issues in the Middle East. And like, as you know here, if you're American, like a lot of times in the US, we don't have a clear picture of what's happening in other parts of the world. And the media chooses to be selective on what they portray into everyday, broadcasts. So I thought by composing a piece that basically like promotes awareness without getting into specifics on the ongoing refugee crisis in the Middle East that's going on, I would promote some awareness to Western audiences to spike their curiosity to do some research about these ongoing issues. And I think the biggest picture, bigger mission of my initiative and project Between Two Worlds is basically promoting, confronting actually the ongoing stereotyping of immigrants based on their origins, religions, and skin color. So joining Songs for World Peace was actually a blessing for me because I think our values align. And when Utako approached me, I thought it's a great idea to put my music out there and to promote my, my musical culture and traditions.
Amazing. Thank you, Vera and Georgia. Thanks for sharing. So my next question is for Vera. So you've been instrumental in creating programming that is inclusive and accessible, so particularly for marginalized communities. So could you share some insights regarding the importance of the inclusivity in arts and how it aligns with the goals of a peace building, in your opinion?
Yeah, so here I really try to make sure that a lot of the work that I do amplifies and gives a voice to the marginalized community, because you'll find that if you're a woman in the music industry, you probably reach the ceiling and you probably can't pursue your career much after that. Or alternatively, if you're part of the LGBTQIA plus community, you're never going to get airplay if you're publicly out. You probably will never get interviews where you get to kind of tell your own personal story. So I think I definitely think platforms like this are really important, not only to just give a voice, to the marginalized community, but also in the context of capacitating them to tell their own stories. I think a lot of times, if it's a story of a woman or if it's the story of an African is always told in a specific way that, oh, the poor girl child from Africa who's struggling. Whereas if you allow someone to use music or the creative arts, they can tell their own story and they can change their own narrative. And the same thing is also happening with the LGBTQIA plus community, where when they use creative platforms, that gives them an opportunity to tell their own story in their own voice. And I also feel like there's a kind of ease that comes through when someone is trying to change a perception or perspective, and they use the creative arts or they use music. It's something that a change starts kind of happening subconsciously in your mind. And after a period of time, you start to think differently. I think we all see it, if you listen to music that's motivating you, telling you, work hard, things will work out for you. The more you listen to that kind of music, it starts to kind of slowly incept itself into your mind, and you start to see that your perception about life and about your ambition starts to change. So I think definitely music plays such a very critical role in advocating for marginalized communities, and also giving them a voice and an opportunity to tell their own stories rather than relying on other people to tell their stories.
Wow, yeah. Thanks for the leading, the empowering the individual's voice, which is super important in the community building. So thank you. My next question for George. So your background spans Middle Eastern musical traditions and traditions of jazz. So how do you blend these diverse influences in your music, and how does the fusion contribution to the message of a unity and understanding in your peace-themed music?
Sure. So like I mentioned earlier, I grew up in Cyprus, which is an island in the Mediterranean, Eastern Mediterranean Sea. And I grew up with, as a kid, surrounded by Middle Eastern musical traditions. And my first instrument actually was a drum called darbuka, which is very similar in shape to African djembe. So that was my first instrument. And then in 2001, I came to the United States to study jazz, but I just want to mention by the time I got here, I was proficient in the musical traditions of the Middle East. I was already playing professionally, so I came here to study jazz because as a kid, I really loved listening to John Coltrane and Miles Davis, and my dream was to become a drummer someday. So I came to the United States to learn a new musical tradition. And what happened is, after I graduated from Berklee, I realized I started having this duality, and I like to call it bimusicality, same thing like being bilingual. I spoke two musical traditions at an equal proficiency level, but I never figured out earlier in my career how to put those two together. And it's actually quite a hard thing to do. It's only until I started having mentors like Danilo Perez and John Patitucci and people that don't think of music as black and white. Danilo doesn't think of jazz as a specific thing. He thinks of music as a global phenomenon, like you can attract things from different traditions and put them together and create something. It doesn't have to be something specific. And that really also during COVID time, made me start thinking about how to compose, like taking elements from my musical traditions, whether it's religious elements, like, or if it's just like a rhythm from the Middle East, or if it's like a makam. We call makam is microtonal modes that are based on tetrachords and pentachords. So I started taking these elements and composing songs, but at the same time telling my story as an immigrant musician to Western audiences, where I'm coming from. And, and I guess at the end, my goal was to promote like awareness, like about other musical traditions and spike some curiosity. And while at the same time, like also promoting social issues like the stereotyping of immigrants in the United States, that from the different parts of the world, like a stereotyping of immigrants based on their religions, because in the Middle East that exists everywhere. And then also like a stereotyping of immigrants based on their skin color, So yeah, as an artist, I guess like I kind of found myself during COVID, and also having right mentors. And this is something I want to emphasize on, because as a musician, like it's very important to having a mentor that not only teaches you music, but also teaches you values, having people that do great things and inspire you as an artist. And for me, that was really liberating as a Middle Eastern musician to be welcomed like that, especially when I was at Global. Like no one told me like I cannot play derbuka in a jazz song, I would play traditional instruments that you don't see musicians in the US use. I wouldn't be your traditional drummer, using a traditional drum set. So I would do my thing, and they embraced me. So I'm grateful for that.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for the inspiring answers. So lastly, what does word peace mean to you? Also, you can share briefly your goal as a peace advocate and artist, and promote what's up.
Peace to me is a world where everyone is accepted for who they really are, no matter your religion, like I mentioned before, skin color or origins, a world that's based on community and helping each other to become better human beings, and create a better society for everyone. In terms for me, for the future, I just want to mention that this year I started my own nonprofit called Anatoliama Inc. And I'm actually, I got funding to give 12 scholarships to American musicians to learn Greek traditional and Middle Eastern music in depth. So this is a dream I had for a long time. And this year I was able to get the funding to, with my partner, of course, Vasilis Kostas. We're both in this together. We got funding to give 12 scholarships to promote our musical traditions in the United States. And that's what's up with me and what's next. And yeah.
Thank you. Vera?
Well, the question about what peace means, it's such a loaded question, but I think in summary, I would just say that for me, peace just means acknowledging that we're different and not feeling threatened by those differences. Because I think a lot of the times, where there's war or violence or hatred, it's because essentially people are afraid of someone's differences. You're afraid of what someone has and the fact that you don't have that, or you're afraid because you don't understand, how someone thinks or how they function, what their culture is. So I think it's just, for me, peace just means acknowledging that it's okay for us to be different. George and I are different. We have different backgrounds, but we also have some areas where we do intersect and we can relate, and that's perfectly fine. And it's important for us to focus on those connections rather than be afraid of the differences that we share. Something that's really exciting for me that I'm working on is I also got some funding. Look at us getting funding together this year to do great things. But I got some funding to work on a project that I've named Human Eyes. And basically it's just kind of encompassing, what we've been talking about today is just allowing marginalized communities to tell their own stories. And we're telling their stories through music, through dance, and through photography. And we'll also have like mini documentaries. And the idea here isn't for us to find like, I will be one of the musicians, but like, it's not for me to go to these people in the marginalized communities and tell them, okay, tell me about you, and then I write the song. But for us to actually write the song together is for them to curate how the dance pieces are going to work. It's for them to curate how the photo shoot is done, how the documentary is made, so that it's not me telling their story, but them telling their story through me. And I think that's something that's really important, and something that needs to start happening more and more in the world, that if we're going to tell a story of someone who's disenfranchised, instead of us trying to tell it from our perspective, it's very important to tell it in the voice of the person whose story and whose message we're trying to get across.
Vera, you nailed it. Thank you so much, Georgie and Vera, for your inspiring work and sharing your artistic perspective toward the world peace. I really appreciate it. And now let's move on to the Go Live. So I'll pass the microphone to Utako.
Thank you so much for being here. And this is the Go Live session. This is for us to share and celebrate together for this year's release. Let's start with United States, Michelle J.
Far across the ocean, from sea to shining sea, different kinds of people sing a sweet harmony. Take a look around you, think about what you see. We can live together, side by side, you and me. One song that the whole world can sing, one voice that...
He is a musician from United States, and he wrote a song called One Piece. Michelle, are you here?
Hey.
Okay, what motivated or inspired you to write this song?
I have the view of that we all do of the world peace and togetherness and the sharing of everything together on the world. Going back, I had seen the video for "We Are the World" would be one of the songs, and probably John Lennon's "Imagine." So the two of the major songs, I guess, about world peace. And it's just that concept of the global concept of a song that everyone, would be able to participate in and present the message of peace to the world. So that's really kind of what inspired me to come up with my song, One Song.
Yes, I get the vibe of We Are the World, actually. Yeah, and then next question is that I heard that you already few choirs actually performed your song. Could you talk about that?
Yes, well, thanks to the wonderful technology that we have, of course, YouTube. I had the song on YouTube, and over the years, just by, I guess, doing a search for songs about peace, I've had various choirs and different groups around the world having interest in performing one song. And it could be from anything from elementary schools wanting to do it to college groups and just local community choirs that have decided to perform one song locally for an event that they might have had. I get a lot of interest from events from schools. A lot of high schools would like use this in their assemblies for a world peace type of event that they would hold at their local schools. So I've been honored to have it performed, like I said, around the world too, many different parts of the world.
Because of the time, and also we wanted to hear you guys to go to the website and then listen to the full song. We were only able to play 1 minute, but please watch the rest of the music for each songs on our website. Mitchell, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So the next artist that we have is Natalie Jane, or Jean, please correct me. What inspired for you to write this song, as well as what inspired you to join this Songs for World Peace?
Well, this song was originally written by my father, and Jima Demon means I ask myself. And so my father passed away this past April, and one of the things that he wanted to do was to do a duet with me. And so obviously we can't do that now that he's passed, but because of technology, I was able to add my vocals to his song and add some of the writing to the song. So the main reason the song was created was because of the earthquake in Haiti, where, you know, lots of people died. And I wanted to re-release it again, not just for the duet, but because of what the madness and the craziness that's going on in Haiti with the gangs and the rapings and the kidnappings. Haiti was once a very vibrant country. Obviously, Haiti is the first Black country that gained its own independence. And it's very sad that it's come to this, you know, after the assassination of Jovenel Moise. It's just been crazy. So I thought that bringing this song out again would give some inspiration and hope to some of the people, well, all of the people in Haiti, because it basically just asks God, where are the heroes? When is the help going to come? Because the Haitian people have suffered so much in the past couple of years. It's really outstanding. World peace to me is a point where people have understanding, compassion, and love. All these things collide. I think that world peace actually starts with the individual. I think that if you can't have self-love, you'll never understand peace. So I think it starts with us first. And as an artist, I'm normally a social impact, social change type of artist. So I always write songs about, you know, climate change, police brutality. And in my songs, it's not that I'm trying to force the listener to change, but sometimes you have to sit and put yourself in somebody else's shoes to see what they are going through. Not a lot of people like to do that, obviously, but I try to get people to do that. So that's what basically peace means to me.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I think the tech team is ready. So let's listen to your song.
Pourquoi l'enfant pleure? Pourquoi tous les héros sont morts? Et pourquoi Dieu est invisible? Au Nicaragua, au Salvador, de l'Afrique Nord jusqu'au Sud, il ne coule que du sang et des larmes. Ceux qui meurent pour la liberté, ceux qui meurent de faim, ceux qui meurent pour une cause ou pour une autre.
Thank you so much. It's such a shame that we cannot play whole song, but please watch our song through our website. Thank you so much, Natalie.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next artist is representing Mozambique, and please correct my pronunciation. TMRS Agawe. Okay, let's listen to her song.
Yeah. Suave, yo. Yeah. We on it right. What he do? 258. Yeah. Só queremos peace, yeah. Only good vibes to remember. Para que os days fiquem better. Peace, yeah. Grita o yeah. Dar o yeah. Queremos peace, yeah. Only good vibes to remember. Para que os days fiquem better. Peace, yeah. Grita o yeah. Dar o yeah. Quero dias tranquilos, tardes cheias de riso. Quero ter foco naquilo, fazer o que amo sem risco. Cause what? Pela no lava kunhosha. Sika nyimpilei, pois chova visa chitungo xanga. What? E eles nem têm culpa, mas pagam por atitudes quem não tem paz no interior. Amar é uma virtude, não há superior ou inferior. Take a time to think, man, this ain't about the or. Everybody's...
Are you here, Perez?
Hello.
Okay, amazing. So let me ask these questions. Thank you for coming. And
thank you.
Okay, so our question is, what made you, or what is inspired you to write this song, and also what inspired you to join this initiative?
Okay, I'll start with the second question. What made me join was actually Vera representing Zimbabwe. Last year, I actually got to participate in a festival that she was hosting, which was Choco Festival. And this year, she gave me this link to the World Peace. So I'd like to thank her first, and thank you for receiving me. What inspired me to write the song was actually the fact that, yes, it's true, and the reality that we have the lack of understanding of what is to be free and what is to express ourselves without being afraid or being scared. I was actually intrigued, but I was like, you know what? It's a topic that we should definitely speak about, because it's like we want to see everybody happy. We want to see everybody having good days. It hurts us so much to like see the difference of how can I put it, like people that have and people that don't have, and how we don't have empathy with all those people. So it's just me trying to express some empathy and spread some awareness that we really need to think about each other. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let me ask this. So when you wrote this music, and what was in your mind when you said about people who have and people who don't have, and what's your goal in terms of what do you want to bring through this song? What do you want to achieve through this song?
With the song and do more to come, I would like to actually spread awareness that we need to empathize and have more empathy with all people, all genders, race, no matter the color, no matter the size, no matter the country that you're from. Like you need to have empathy enough to like look at that person and be like, this is my equal, this is my brother. Although we're not from the same mother or father, but have empathy and try to have everybody thinking like that. I feel like if everybody had that thought, we would have a different world, and people who care about each other, who share whatever they have, even if it's a little sweet or anything like that. So peace comes from within us and how we spread it.
Right. Thank you so much. And it's amazing that as soon as your music kicks in, our body's like, we are already moving our body. And that's like, yeah, building empathy, empathy. And then music is, yeah, for sure, huge part of it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm actually a little bit intrigued because I was like, everybody's singing and I'm a rapper. So I was just a little scared and shy, but thank you so much for having me.
No, we really appreciate that for your music. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. So for the next artist is an artist representing USA. His wife is here, and his artist name is
Robert Scott Sheber.
Sheba. Oh, okay.
Wolf, yeah.
And his artist name is Robert K. Wolf. So let's listen to his song called Peace is Possible.
Say this this world is a battlefield, a force of hate that will not yield. And the odds imply we reach bloody conclusion. Now, didn't think I'd ever see that this day would come to be. Two warriors, unarmed revolution.
What inspired you to join this initiative? And do you know message or the inspiration behind this song?
Yes, I heard about the initiative through a notice I received probably through Berklee College Music because I'm an alum. And as soon as I read it, I thought of Rob's song, my late husband. Rob had written this song, Peace is Possible. And he wrote it back when he was a teenager in the 1970s, inspired by the Camp David Accords, when the Prime Minister of Israel and the President of Egypt, Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat, signed peace accords that no one, ever thought would. It didn't automatically bring peace to the Middle East, but it was like a huge step back in the 1970s. And Rob was, like I said, only a teenager then, but he had visited Israel a couple of times on student youth trips and had been really moved by those experiences and was really wrote the song out of the excitement and optimism of these peace accords coming about. The tagline on this song is peace is possible and it's not so far away. And the whole thing is like the new hope after such a war-torn experience in the world. So Rob was a really empathetic and empathic person, and he believed in social justice and cared a lot about people, both on the close level. He could be friends with anyone of any background, and on the larger, caring about the whole world. So he's been gone a few years, but I heard the song and I'm his ambassador now. So as soon as I saw peace, songs for world peace, I thought of the song needs to be heard. Sort of my job.
Thank you so much. Like for this year, we never had this, but for this year, two of our artists, like you and Natalie, is actually publishing or releasing the song. And that's because we have this technology, so that even though the person is not here anymore, but the music is always here with us. And that's amazing. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for making your time for the interview and for joining with your wonderful music. And thank you for all the audiences around the world for joining us now. Please follow our artists and support their works. I know that you two kind of directed and produced the final song this year. How did your collaboration happen? And would you tell us briefly about the process and behind the scenes story?
Yeah, so this song, so now we're going to talk about Peace Song briefly, because it's, it made it possible by so many people's help and collaboration. And when you see the credit, the back side of the, at the end of the video, you wouldn't believe how many people were actually involved in this song. And this song was Hiroshima release this piece, not release, but they always play this song once annually. And so it's really important song for them. And then we decided to, they asked us to, if it's possible to cover this song. And then it was kind of mutual. And then so we arranged this song. And only the difference between original and this one is we added a little bit of twist in the middle. And it actually came from Martin Luther King's speech. What he said is, I have a dream, and let freedom ring. And when I heard that speech, I thought about, we still need a dream. We still have a dream. That was happened in the United States, but what about the rest of the world? We still have a war, we still have discrimination, and we still have a dream. And so that was the phrase. And because he said, let freedom ring, so I added, let peace sing, because that's what we do, right? So that's how the bridge section came.
Yeah, so I think it makes sense because the original Hiroshima Peace Song does have the lyrics to mention about the Bell of Peace that's actually located inside of the Peace Park in Hiroshima. So Let Peace Ring actually resonates to the song itself too. And for me to add, so when we started arranging, Utako did the rhythm section, I did the vocal chorus and the string section and some horn section. And then I started reaching out to Danilo to see if we can work with global jazz musicians, because I also work at Berklee, but we never really had strong connection. So I, went for it, and he's like, yes, let's do it. And so it's been great. And we've learned so much from working with other organizations that's passionate with peace building through music. And so I'm very proud of the product, and I hope you guys enjoy the product too. We can do this whole day, whole week, but let's close the event. So thank you so much for making your time on a weekday morning. And we really appreciate your contribution with music and the time and effort and everything. So yeah, and thank you for joining us. And thank you to all audiences around the world for joining us on the internet. And please follow our artists and support their works.
Okay, and thank you all for joining again today. And then lastly, we would love to say thank you to our volunteer members who is not here today, but their name is Willa Wei and Anne Truong and Genesis Otis. Thank you so much. And I hope this event helped you to think about world peace, and I hope we can continue doing that through music.